Mr. McMahon, the new six-part Netflix docuseries about the former owner of World Wrestling Entertainment, has dropped. All six parts are available now, and we will be talking the good, the bad, and the spoilers. So let's get into it. Go watch it yourselves if you haven't seen it yet. I'm saying we're going to talk spoilers, but it is a docuseries, so it's a little different than spoiling a movie, right? But as it were, as the case may be, we'll be talking about the spoilers, and I will say my first biggest negative with this series, if you are a longtime wrestling fan, if you have followed along with wrestling history on the dirt sheets or through even WWE's revisionist history on the Monday Night Wars documentary or on the rise and fall of WCW, if you know all that, you might be bored for about half of this docu-series because a lot of this is stuff you already know. And then Vince bought the company from his dad. And then Hulkamania happened, and then WrestleMania happened, and then WrestleMania 3, and we had 93,000 people, even though you didn't. And that is my first biggest positive with this docu-series. They call Vince and WWE out on a lot of their BS, on a lot of their revisionism, on a lot of their hypocrisy. They even get Vince on camera at one point admitting that, look, I'm a businessman, and in business sometimes you gotta say things that you don't really think. I love that. I love that they called them out not just on the 93,000 thing, they called them out on the fact that Hogan was already a bigger star than Andre, that Andre had been beaten, that Andre had been slammed. They called Vince out, of course, for all the history of legal issues he's had, for the steroid thing. How just because he was found not guilty, the trial still showed that a lot of his guys were on steroids, and they were usually the top guys, and that probably was not a coincidence, and so on and so forth. This is not a fluff piece, and that is my biggest positive. Even if you're bored for half of it, the other half is really, really great. It's not a fluff piece. They go there, they talk about the dark stuff, they talk about the controversial storylines from the Attitude Era, they talk about the infamous Vince Stephanie you know what pitch that Vince finally did not get on the air, thankfully. The one storyline when Vince was like, maybe not this. It was an idea where him and his daughter were going to have relations, and then they thought better of it, thankfully. They talk about Chris Benoit. They talk about all the things, and I was very glad that the documentary took that turn, even if perhaps it took that turn post Janelle Grant scandal. I was glad they went there. They captured Bruce Pritchard. You know, you always hear about how he's Vince's right hand man, how he's his puppet, no pun intended with the shirt I'm showing you, how he's Vince's stooge. And you get real moments of Bruce Pritchard being like, look, when my wife had cancer, Vince got her great treatment, and she's lived 20 years longer than she was supposed to because of it. So, yeah, he does have a good relationship with them, as I'm sure anyone would, that, that he does that for them. They really look at things like that. It makes you go, oh, this is why so many people defend Vince and go back to work for Vince. And, you know, it's typical of a lot of narcissists. They give you the world. They treat you great until they don't anymore, right? And then when they don't, you want to get that feeling back. So, yeah, it's a really fascinating look at Vince. Him talking about the wrestlers he liked, him talking about his honest thoughts, or at least his honest thoughts when they filmed it. That is the most fascinating part to me. Vince does not talk enough about himself in general. He does not talk about his views on wrestlers enough publicly. It was great that they finally got him to sit down and give us his real thoughts a little bit. That was very fascinating. That was great. You dive into the family life. Such a great docuseries. I will say, on the negative side again, some stuff was presented out of order to heighten the drama. They talk about a 2003 storyline before they talk about, and then he bought WCW in 2001. They make you think that Hulk Hogan left the company and went to work for Ted Turner, a week later, when actually, no, it was the footage you show of him leaving and then the footage you show from WCW, that was actually 2 years later. There was a gap there. And for one of those 2 years that you glossed over, Hogan was not only back in WWE, he was the champion for a second. They completely glossed over 1993. They claimed that The Rock was the first WWE champion of color. Uh, I mean, depending on how you look at it, I mean, Yokozuna was champion, he was Samoan. I mean, depends how you look at it. Obviously, his dad, first African American tag team champions, so on and so forth. Kinda, sorta, maybe put an asterisk on that. Not enough Rock in this documentary, considering he's on the board of directors now. I will say that. More Hulk Hogan on the documentary, telling lies. That was interesting. He claimed that Rocky was bigger than Scarface and The Godfather. I haven't sat down to fact check that yet. I don't know what the measuring stick is for success there, but I have a feeling that's probably not true on some level. Somebody fact check that in the comments. Let us know. I will say that overall, I enjoyed this. I think you guys will enjoy it. And let me know what you thought down in the comments. Obviously, Vince McMahon, a very controversial figure. He's allegedly done a lot of things, said a lot of things. How are you guys feeling about the documentary specifically? Let's not get into a whole, is Vince innocent or guilty of XYZ? I want to know what you guys thought. So comment down below, and we'll be back soon and take another bite of the GeeKlare.